I have seen men chase chaos, thinking it will forge them. But noise does not shape the sword. Silence does. You do not temper steel with wind and fire alone. You temper it with the stillness between strikes, with the patience of heat held and hammered, cooled and held again. If you seek strength, do not run into the storm. Withdraw into discipline. Return to the edge of yourself and polish it. That is where war begins, not on the battlefield, but in the rhythm of your smallest habits. I do not speak from the edge of mysticism. I speak from the center of reality. And reality is not loud. Reality is the grain of your daily rituals. The water you boil, the floor you sweep, the moment you delay anger by a breath. That is war. The one who commands himself before the clash has already won before the banners are raised. And if you wait for inspiration, you will lose to the man who does not need it, because he has trained without applause. The sharpest sword is not drawn with flair. It is not forged by emotion. It is carved daily by routines that no one claps for: early rising, clear mind, consistent breath, repeated drills, silent choices. These are not glamorous, but they kill louder things. They outlive flame. The blade that lasts is not the one that glints the brightest under the sun. It is the one that has known cold steel in quiet mornings, again and again, until the hand becomes the weapon. You must ask yourself, are you ruled by energy or by rhythm? If you move only when you feel something, you are not free. You are a puppet of momentary forces. But if you move in silence, if you show up the same whether praised or ignored, then you are building something no man can take from you. You are sharpening the invisible. You are shaping command. And the world bows not to noise, but to command. Discipline is not loud. It is not proud. It does not seek credit. That is why it endures. The warrior who wins does not need to feel powerful, only to be precise. He is not obsessed with being seen, only with being ready. He is not moved by the mood of the hour, only by the pattern he has chosen and returned to and carved into himself through repetition. There is a great lie in modern minds, that progress must feel good. But the sword does not ask for praise while it is being sharpened. It grinds. It sheds what is not needed. It endures the stone. And only when the sharpening is complete does it gleam, quietly, lethally, and without begging for recognition. This is what you must become. You must be the one who rehearses in the shadows, who moves without seeking eyes, who does not perform, but prepares. In a world obsessed with showing, you must train yourself to disappear, to become invisible in your preparation, so that your strike needs no announcement. That is true mastery. When the world is surprised by the clarity you have built for years without witness. Do not confuse routine with monotony. A weak man sees the same action repeated and calls it dull. A wise man sees the same action repeated and calls it refinement. The difference is focus, and attention is the blade behind every motion. The one who acts without attention dulls himself. But the one who returns with full presence to the same practice day after day will one day stand beyond even his own imagination. What is war if not the collision of patterns? Victory belongs not to the strongest, but to the most stable. Strength bursts and fades, but rhythm sustains. Your enemies will shout, your allies may falter, but your habits will not betray you if you build them with clarity. If your foundation is made of discipline, then storms will pass through you. Noise will shatter against you. And in the silence after chaos, you will remain sharp, standing, calm. Let others chase the newest strategy, the flash of trend, the hunger for acclaim. Let them jump between ideas and burn through energy. You must walk the silent path. You must learn to find peace in doing the same thing, better, quieter, deeper. Because excellence is not found in novelty. It is found in depth, in returning to the same drill, not with boredom, but with precision, with less waste, with more truth, until what you do becomes who you are. This is why routine is sacred, because it does not care how you feel. It only cares that you return. And in that return, day after day, even in silence, you are forged. You stop needing motivation. You stop needing external force. You become your own commander. And that is the rarest thing in war, a man who leads himself. You do not become formidable in a single moment. You become formidable in fragments, unnoticed, unrewarded, uncelebrated repetitions. A strike is only clean because the hand has failed 1,000 times before. A command is only firm because the voice has remained silent until the right hour. The world does not see what shapes a warrior. That is your advantage. Let them measure noise. You measure presence. Routine is not the enemy of freedom. Routine is the foundation of freedom. Because when you remove the decision, you remove the hesitation. When your feet know where to go before the mind speaks, you have reached the beginning of mastery. What others call discipline, you must come to know as peace, the peace of not needing to decide, only to act. Consider the archer. He does not pray the arrow flies straight. He trains the draw until the body becomes the bow. He breathes the same way, steps the same way, releases the same way. And then, only then, does the shot become a form of silence. Not struggle, not force, just inevitability. That is routine. That is the weapon made invisible. Do not chase intensity. Intensity fades. Consistency breaks kingdoms. Consistency is not loud. It does not shout its victories. It does not ask for your excitement. It does not rely on your mood. It waits. It returns. It sharpens. And over time, it becomes unbreakable. Not through force, but through presence. Like water through stone. The sharpest edge is not the one that cuts with a scream. It is the one that slips through without resistance, because it has become indistinguishable from nature itself. That is the final form of discipline. When you are not performing discipline, you are discipline. Not forcing focus, but walking as focus. Not pretending calm, but breathing as calm. The edge of the sword disappears into the hand. Look closely. Weakness is rarely loud. It whispers, "Skip today, no one will know." But the blade knows. The body knows. The war you're training for may not arrive tomorrow or the next day, but when it does, it will not wait for your preparation. You are either ready or you are not. And readiness is not a feeling. It is the sum of silent choices stacked across time. Every repetition is a vote. You cast it not for what you want to feel, but for who you are willing to become. Most men are too loud in becoming, too quick to speak of what they will do, too eager to show their blade before it is ready. But the one who sharpens in private will never need to announce his power. It will reveal itself when silence is broken, and not before. There is a difference between movement and momentum. Movement is busy. Momentum is aligned. The one who is busy does many things poorly. The one with momentum does one thing well, again and again, until it cuts through time. You must not be the scattered blade. Be the blade that has seen the same whetstone for years. That is not boring. That is death for your enemies. Silence teaches you everything noise cannot. It teaches you patience. It teaches you rhythm. It teaches you to observe without reacting. A disciplined mind speaks rarely, but when it speaks, it commands. A warrior must not chase words, he must chase weight. Let your presence say what your voice does not need to. That is the language of restraint. That is the strategy of stillness. There is war in everything. War in the way you wake. War in the way you delay. War in the way you respond to inconvenience. And that war is not against others. It is against yourself. If you do not defeat the lazy voice inside, you will never defeat anything outside. And the only weapon strong enough to cut through yourself is routine. You may think this sounds small. That greatness demands something louder. But I tell you this, empires have fallen not for lack of strength, but for lack of rhythm. Leaders crumble not because they were weak, but because they abandoned routine the moment they tasted comfort. And soldiers die not when they run out of weapons, but when they run out of preparation. So I ask you, what is your practice when no one is watching? What is the rhythm beneath your performance? What do you return to when the world forgets your name? That is your strength, not talent, not force, not emotion, but the invisible clock of self-mastery ticking underneath everything, keeping you alive, keeping you lethal, keeping you sharp. Return to your rituals, not to impress, but to remember, not to achieve, but to align. Every repetition is a sharpening. Every delay is a dulling. You must choose which you are doing every single day. If you do not choose, you are being chosen, and you will wake up in war unarmed. There is no finish line to discipline, no summit to stillness. There is only the return, the breath, the next step, and then the next. Let others celebrate outcome. You must fall in love with execution, fall in love with obscurity, fall in love with silence. That is where the sharpest swords are born. That is where the real war begins and ends. The enemy hopes you forget, not your weapons, your rhythm, your return. They know the man who has lost his pattern is easier to provoke, easier to bait. He will chase conflict without preparation. He will strike without alignment. He will confuse urgency for clarity. But the one who has kept his rhythm, his breathing, his sharpening, his stillness, that one cannot be drawn out by noise. That one is immovable until it is time to move. You must understand, silence is not absence. It is armor. It is your place of refinement, your unseen battlefield. Every morning you rise before distraction, you win ground. Every time you repeat your drill without needing reward, you build foundation. Not in the eyes of others, but in the muscle of your own command. And command begins where choice ends. When you no longer ask, should I train today? But simply do it, because it is who you are. This is not sacrifice. This is strategy. When others spend themselves in search of motivation, you can serve yourself through design. When others hope the world aligns with their desire, you align yourself to what is required. You become immune to chaos by becoming one with pattern. Not as a slave to routine, but as a craftsman who returns to the same tool because he has seen its edge in action. Do not confuse this for rigidity. The strongest blade is not brittle. It flexes without breaking. And so must your pattern adapt, but never vanish. When the seasons shift, you shift your stance, not your nature. When the day changes, you change your pace, not your direction. Because even in flexibility, there is form. And form, kept long enough, becomes instinct. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to master yourself, and mastery is invisible. Mastery is a man walking quietly at dawn, doing what no one asked him to, because he understands that when war comes, it will not wait for applause. It will come in the dark. It will come without warning, and only those who have sharpened unseen will remain standing when it passes. The mind that seeks comfort first is always weak when tested, because it has not trained in hunger. It has not walked through repetition without pleasure. It has not known what it is to endure boredom with focus. But boredom is a teacher. A blade forged in boredom cuts through chaos without flinching. It has seen worse. It has done more with less. And it does not need sensation to strike clean. You are not competing with others. You are competing with your past self, the one who needed approval, who required excitement, who skipped steps when no one was looking. You must beat him. You must outlast him, because if he returns, you will soften, and softness is the beginning of defeat. The edge blunts not through use, but through neglect. Let your day become a series of chosen acts, not reactions. Do not check the wind before stepping forward. Do not wait for energy. Move from alignment. That is the mark of the commander. Not that he feels ready, but that he acts from readiness built across months of private preparation. Even when tired. Even when unseen. Especially when unseen. This is why I speak of silence, because silence is not the absence of action. It is the absence of distraction. It is where your pattern becomes real. It is where the noise of the world is filtered and only what matters remains. In silence, you hear your footsteps again. You remember your stance. You become aware of what is slipping, and you adjust before the enemy sees it. There is no glory in early training, no celebration for perfecting the ordinary. But in the hour of testing, everything hidden will become revealed. The hand that held the sword 10,000 times will not tremble. The eye that has stared at the same target for years will not flinch. And the heart that has acted without audience will not freeze under pressure. It will breathe and strike and return to stillness. If you abandon routine in search of intensity, you will become addicted to noise. You will crave high emotion. You will need perfect conditions. And when the storm hits, as it always does, you will be unanchored. But the one who has trained without drama, who has walked the same ground daily without needing novelty, he will see the storm not as a threat, but as a mirror. And in that mirror, he will see what is solid. Do not admire the warrior in battle. Admire the warrior in preparation, because battle is too late. Battle reveals, it does not build. What you bring into the fight is not chosen in that moment. It is chosen in every small act beforehand. In the stretch you held, in the food you refused, in the word you didn't speak, in the alarm you answered. These are your weapons, and the enemy will never see them until it is too late. You must understand this clearly. The sharper your routine, the fewer battles you need to fight, because discipline repels disorder. Precision discourages attack. The one who walks with calm clarity radiates something rare, and it makes weaker opponents reconsider. This is not mysticism. This is presence. And presence begins where inconsistency ends. You do not need more strength. You need more return, more repetition, more readiness. What you do every day is stronger than what you hope to do once. One step, repeated without break, will outpace 10,000 that collapse under emotion. And so, you do not rise to the moment. you fall to your level of training. The question is not, will you rise? But, what have you trained yourself to return to when the noise arrives? Even the wind obeys rhythm. Even the seasons repeat. Why should your growth be chaos? Sharpen once, and the blade dulls tomorrow. Sharpen daily, and the blade becomes part of you. You must become what you practice, or what you neglect will become you. When a soldier forgets his drills, he does not forget them all at once. He forgets them in small abandonments, one skipped repetition, one delayed breath, one unnoticed break in stance. And then one day, he arrives at battle not as a warrior, but as a man trying to remember who he used to be. That is how defeat enters, not through the enemy's sword, but through your own erosion. Quiet, consistent, invisible, until it is irreversible. The most dangerous enemy is not the one in front of you. It is the one within you that says, just this once, skip it. The voice that whispers compromise into your pattern is the true thief of power, because it sounds reasonable. It speaks gently. But every time you listen, your edge dulls. And when the blade dulls, even your best effort will require more force and more risk to do what precision once handled with ease. This is the slow death of undisciplined men, not collapse, but drift. They do not fall, they fade, from clarity to confusion, from rhythm to chaos, from purpose to comfort. And comfort, when worshipped, becomes a coffin. You must train yourself to resist this decay, not with force, but with return. The simple act of showing up again, and again, and again, until resistance no longer speaks, because it knows it will not be heard. I do not romanticize hardship. I do not ask for suffering. I ask for order, because order will carry you when emotion fails, and emotion will fail. It is a guest, sometimes loud, sometimes quiet, never reliable. But order, discipline, is a house you build yourself. It shelters you when storms come. It holds your armor. It knows where every tool is kept. And when called to act, it does not panic. It reaches calmly, executes quietly, resets completely. This is the difference between readiness and reaction. Readiness is built. Reaction is borrowed. The one who reacts may survive, but the one who is ready commands. He does not flinch when chaos arrives, because he has practiced with chaos every day in his own mind. Through drills, through refusal, through the embrace of silence, through the study of restraint. Modern men confuse motion for meaning. They race, they scroll, they shout, they mistake urgency for importance. But urgency without discipline is noise wearing armor. It looks sharp, it sounds decisive, but it cannot hold position. When pressed, it crumbles. When tested, it reveals the hollowness beneath its surface. But you must be hollow of noise and full of substance. You must be slow to speak and quick to repeat what works. There is no magic to mastery, only rhythm. If you wish to be immune to failure, you must become immune to laziness, not by suppressing it, but by replacing it. Every time you feel it rise, you act anyway. Every time your mind says stop, you return to the motion that sharpens. That is how a blade outlasts rust. Not by hoping the air changes, but by never ceasing to be honed. Most men are weapons made once, then left to dull. You must be a weapon remade daily. A blade returned to the stone. A warrior who walks not with pride, but with practice. And the practice is not for the world. It is for the moment no one can save you. The moment when your habits become your shield, your instincts become your sword, and your silence becomes your signal. I have seen men collapse not from weakness, but from neglect. Their minds untrained, their steps untested, their mouths louder than their preparation. They believed clarity would come to them in the moment, but clarity does not arrive. It is carried, and it is carried by the man who has rehearsed its weight over time until it no longer shakes his hand. Think of your body as a temple, your actions as its rituals, your habits as the priests who keep it sacred. Do not violate it with inconsistency. Do not pollute it with distraction. Do not abandon it for convenience. The discipline you build is not punishment. It is protection, not deprivation, but preparation. You are not less for saying no. You are more for knowing when to. Some will call you rigid. Let them. You are not here for comfort. You are here for command. The path of silence is not lonely. It is exact. And the more you walk it, the fewer words you will need, the fewer explanations you will owe, because the results of quiet discipline speak louder than the claims of loud ambition. There is no strength without repetition, no glory without boredom, no precision without pattern, and no peace without restraint. If you wish to rule your moments, rule your mornings. If you wish to hold power in your hands, hold consistency in your calendar. Because the true weapon is not what you lift, but what you return to, what you refuse to forget, what you polish even when it seems already sharp. Do not wait for clarity. Create it, through movement without delay, through rituals without excuse, through silence that sharpens the voice, not silences it, through a way of living that feels inevitable. Because the world respects inevitability. It bends to what cannot be denied. And nothing is more undeniable than a man who has returned to his task 1,000 times without applause and sharpened every time. You are not here to impress. You are here to become. Let others seek attention. You seek alignment. Let others burn brightly for a moment. You burn steadily for decades. Because in war, real war, it is not brilliance that survives. It is consistency, not fire, but flame. Understand this. A brilliant strategy executed once is weaker than a simple discipline repeated daily. Do not chase extraordinary performance. Chase unshakable preparation. The warrior who sharpens every day does not fear the one who shines once, because flashes fade. But form, embedded through repetition, remains even when the lights go out. The mind you carry into battle will not be the mind of excitement or inspiration. It will be the mind you have conditioned through the dullest mornings, through the dark hours when no one watched, and you acted anyway. That is your true training. Not the hour of glory, but the hundreds of hours without it. You are not preparing for the crowd. You are preparing for the moment when there is no one to lean on but the form you built in solitude. The way you do one thing is the way you do all things. If you allow sloppiness in small motions, it will infect the larger ones. If your first act of the day is delay, you have already started with defeat. That is why your rituals must be guarded like a fortress. Not because they are dramatic, but because they are the foundation upon which all strength is built. You do not rise on battle day. You fall to your level of discipline. Let your posture be your statement. Let your silence be your stance. Let your return, again and again, be the only explanation you offer. The world will not understand at first. They will not see the value of the repetition. But when you act without hesitation, when you move through pressure with ease, when you speak and the room quiets, they will understand. Not because you told them, but because you lived it. Mastery is not a destination, it is a direction. You walk toward it, but never arrive. And that is the power of routine. It is the path that never ends, but also never betrays. The same steps, taken with attention, deepen. They reveal layers you once missed. The same breath, repeated with control, becomes a weapon. You begin to see what others do not, because they have stopped too soon. Beware the hunger for variety. It weakens the edge. Let others chase novelty. You chase depth. You are not here to be entertained by your training. You are here to be transformed by it. The one who returns to the same stance, the same form, the same silence, and refines it, that one becomes unrecognizable to his former self. Not through explosion, but through erosion. Not through change, but through carving. Each moment you choose your pattern, you are writing your character, not in theory, but in truth. The hand that hesitates reveals 1,000 skipped repetitions. The foot that slips in battle remembers every morning it was planted late. You are not fooling anyone, least of all the war. War sees your habits. War does not listen to your intentions. It strikes at your weakness, not your dreams. This is why you must become cold with yourself, not cruel, but exact. You must demand return, even when the day tempts delay. You must show up, even when the mind seeks escape, because there is no alternate path, there is no shortcut, only return, again and again, until it is not something you do, but something you are. The sharper the blade, the more dangerous the slip. Precision is not an option, it is a necessity, and precision is born from practice, not from intensity, not from adrenaline, but from calm, repeated motion. If you wish to strike like lightning, you must train like water. Slow, deliberate, shaping the rock with patience. Let others ask, what's the secret? You already know it. There is no secret, only a calendar covered in days where you chose to show up. A life built from mornings that were not dramatic, but disciplined. A routine so refined that you no longer think, you execute. Not mindlessly, but instinctively. Because when war arrives, you will not have time to think. You will only have time to act. And you will act exactly as you have trained. Do not trust passion. Passion burns bright, then fades. Trust consistency. Trust the version of you that moves without the push of emotion, that returns without praise, that sharpens in silence and says nothing when it's done. That is your ally. That is your commander. That is the part of you the enemy should fear. I have walked the same stretch of ground 10,000 times, not because I could not go elsewhere, but because I chose to own it. Until every grain of dirt beneath my foot knew my weight, until every breath in the routine felt like steel. That is how you conquer terrain, not by passing through it, but by becoming one with it. That is how you conquer yourself. There will be days you want to quit. That is not weakness. That is proof that you are sharpening, that you are close to something real. You do not retreat on those days. You anchor deeper. You go quieter. You move smaller if you must. But you move, even if it is one step. Because one step keeps the edge, and a kept edge keeps you. Remember, the loudest voice is not always the clearest. The most dramatic day is not the most important. The sharpest cut is not always seen. The most dangerous man is not the one who yells, but the one who has trained for years without speaking. Because when he does act, it is final. There is no echo, only precision. Let your life speak that way. Let your silence become your introduction. Let your pattern speak your name. Let your return each day be your answer to every doubt. That is how a warrior is known, not by what he says, but by what he cannot stop doing. By the edge, he refuses to let dull. By the silence, he does not fear. You must begin to see your time not as a resource to spend, but as a battlefield to guard. Each hour you let drift without intent is territory lost, not to an external enemy, but to the habits within you that wish to soften your form. The enemy of discipline is not failure. It is erosion, the slow dissolving of pattern beneath the warm fog of distraction. You do not need to collapse in order to be conquered. You only need to drift. That is why stillness is not passive. It is resistance. In a world addicted to motion, the one who remains still, in posture, in routine, in clarity, becomes immovable. And immovability is power. Not because it attacks, but because it cannot be manipulated. It cannot be rushed, baited, or disturbed. And those who cannot be disturbed eventually disturb everything. Do not wait for quiet. Create it. Do not wait for the perfect schedule. Create one. Ritual is not a luxury. It is armor. You must learn to move within a structure you do not question. Not because you are a machine, but because you are a strategist. A strategist knows that every choice drains focus. And so he chooses once, then repeats, so that his energy is saved not for deciding, but for executing. You think repetition is boring. I tell you, it is the birthplace of clarity. The world does not become simpler, but you become sharper. And in becoming sharper, you begin to cut through what once confused you, what once distracted you, what once delayed you. This is how order wins over chaos, not by overpowering it, but by refusing to move with it. There is a war for your attention. You win by not joining the fight. You win by anchoring into routines so deliberate, so practiced, that even chaos finds no grip. A man in motion without clarity is a pawn. A man in pattern, refined through silence, becomes a general. And generals do not rush. They move when the time is right, not sooner, not louder, just right. Discipline is not urgency. It is calm repetition under pressure. The man who returns to the same motion, same stance, same breath, even when the world is collapsing, that man does not merely survive. He commands, because he does not flinch. And flinching is the beginning of defeat. But steadiness, that invisible rhythm beneath the panic, is the mark of one who has trained for this exact moment. You must understand the value of slowness, not in motion, in mind. Do not rush to understand. Do not rush to fix. Do not rush to prove. Observe, breathe, return. The sharpest sword is not the one that moves fastest. It is the one drawn at the exact moment. No sooner, no later. It is sharp because it does not hesitate and does not hurry. Those who cannot sit still cannot rule themselves. And if you cannot rule yourself, you are not yet a warrior. You are a reaction, trained not by strategy, but by stimulus. You become whatever the world throws at you, but you must become the anchor, the pattern the world cannot shake, the edge that waits in silence. Because waiting is not weakness. It is precision held in reserve. You will be misunderstood. Let that be. You will be doubted. Let them speak. You will be ignored. Let that pass. These are not your battles. Your battle is within. It is with your own comfort, your own impatience, your own craving to be seen. Silence is not what you endure. It is what you choose. Because in silence, the noise dies. And when the noise dies, your true orders rise. Act with no need to explain. Train with no desire for validation. Sharpen without announcing. If they do not see it now, they will see it when it is too late. You are not here to warn. You are here to win. And winning is not loud. It is exact. It is the result of 1,000 unseen steps taken without permission, taken without approval, taken because they are yours to take. You are not meant to feel ready. You are meant to move anyway. Emotion is a weather pattern, but your form is the terrain beneath it. Let others be blown off course. You must be the ground. You must remain the same beneath sunshine or storm, because storms pass, but structure remains. That is what routine gives you, a form that does not change when conditions do. Hold the same grip, take the same breath, return to the same time, same place, same ritual, until the world begins to shape itself around your discipline or breaks against it. This is not rigidity. This is power, quiet, unbreakable, unflinching power. Even when the body aches, the pattern must move. Even when the mind resists, the blade must return to the stone. Because the moment you give it permission to drift, it forgets its edge. And once forgotten, that edge must be earned again, not with talk, but with return. Repetition is how memory becomes muscle, how clarity becomes command. If you do not master your habits, they will master you. There is no neutral ground. Every day you either reinforce your form or reduce it. Every hour you either sharpen the blade or let it rust. And the blade does not lie. It will not strike cleaner because you meant well. It will only strike as you trained it to. Let each motion carry the full weight of your attention. Let no repetition be empty. Let no breath be wasted. That is how warriors are formed, not by volume, but by presence. Not by intensity, but by integrity. Integrity of form, integrity of purpose, integrity of return. You will want to chase many things. Resist. You only need to chase one, the sharpness of your edge. Everything else comes from that. Respect, clarity, impact, victory. They are not goals. They are shadows of discipline. Chase the source. Let the shadows follow. And if you are tired, good. It means you are building something. If you are bored, good. It means you are close to something real. If you are alone, good. It means you are no longer distracted. Now, sharpen, in silence, as it was always done, as it always will be. In silence, the mind reveals its structure, not when it speaks, but when it waits. The undisciplined mind shouts in stillness, demands motion, begs for escape. But the trained mind listens, watches, holds position, and when it moves with intent. This is what separates the warrior from the impulsive man. Not the ability to fight, but the ability to wait without weakening. The true battlefield is not external. It is the hour before action, the silence before the strike, the space between repetition and result. Most men collapse in this space. They grow uncertain. They reach for stimulation. They abandon their rhythm in pursuit of noise that feels like progress. But you must become more dangerous in stillness than others are in movement. I do not fear the one who strikes hardest. I fear the one who strikes last, the one who has watched, measured, endured, preserved energy while others spent it, who sharpened in the dark while others displayed their edges to the sun. That is the blade that breaks ranks. Not because it is loud, but because it is inevitable. The blade that is seen too early becomes a target. The one who reveals his pattern too soon becomes predictable. Conceal your power inside repetition. Let them underestimate your routine. Let them laugh at your structure. But when they falter and you remain unmoved, prepared, precise, their doubt becomes your advantage. Do not answer to the moment. Answer to your form. Do not wait for the world to align. Align yourself daily, whether the world sees you or not. This is not ambition. This is command. You are not chasing a life. You are building a stance, a way of holding yourself that no disappointment can dislodge, a rhythm so steady that even pain cannot interrupt it. There will be noise, from outside and within, temptation to break formation, to abandon the hour, to betray the path. Every man hears it, but few stand still when it calls. Fewer still breathe, remain calm, and continue sharpening, because that is the choice that separates legend from memory. The refusal to abandon your post, even when no one else believes in the reason you stand there. Let others need a purpose big enough to excite them. You only need one strong enough to return to, and you return through motion, quiet, unflinching, uncelebrated. You do not need to feel like showing up. You only need to show up. And when you do, the emotion follows the movement, not the other way around. Those who chase feeling are slaves to timing, but those who master routine command the clock. They bend time by becoming independent of it. When you repeat with precision, the world slows. Your decisions speed up. While others delay, you act. While others hesitate, you execute. Not from impulse, but from design. Not from pressure, but from habit. This is how warriors are born. Not from battle, but from preparation so exact that the battle seems smaller than the training. Your opponent must not frighten you. Your enemy must not surprise you. If you have trained honestly, nothing they bring will be unfamiliar, because you have already faced the worst opponent, yourself, and refused to break. Your body is not the limit. Your mind is. And your mind is not sharpened through achievement. It is sharpened through return, the act of doing again without question, of rising again without applause, of refining again without fatigue. This is the edge you must pursue. It is not glamorous, it is not urgent, but it is final. And in war, finality wins. Refuse to decorate your effort. Do not disguise your repetition with fancy names. Do not disguise your absence of action with talk. The world needs fewer thinkers who do not move, and more movers who do not speak. When the time comes, the one who has acted 10,000 times without audience will act once, and the world will stop. This is why we repeat. Because repetition is rehearsal for silence under pressure. It is the builder of composure, the architect of clarity. You cannot buy this. You cannot fake this. You earn it through every unremarkable day spent building something no one else can see. Until one day, they do. And by then, you no longer need them to. You will know you are close when the routine stops feeling like a burden and starts feeling like a blade. When you stop counting days and begin counting breaths. When you stop looking for motivation and begin seeking friction. Because friction polishes. Friction defines. Friction is the signal that you are near the edge that others avoid. A man who seeks comfort cannot keep his edge, because comfort does not ask for growth. It only asks that you stay. But discipline demands motion, even when tired, even when lost, even when the results do not yet appear, especially then, because those are the days that shape you, when no one claps, when nothing changes, when all you have left is your return, and your return is everything. It is the one sacred act no one can steal. You may lose your tools, you may lose your timing, you may lose your strength, but if you do not lose your pattern, you are never lost. Because the pattern rebuilds you, one motion at a time, one step, one breath, one refusal to break. This is the sharpest sword, not the one raised high, but the one held low, cleaned every day, put back in its place without drama. The one that has cut only when needed, and always exactly where it must. The one that outlasts generations because it was never dulled by pride. Let that be your discipline. Quiet, lethal, invisible until drawn, and when drawn, unquestionable. You will find that the longer you walk the path of routine, the fewer words you will need, because every motion becomes its own language. Your presence begins to speak in your place. Your calm becomes louder than advice. Your focus more persuasive than any argument. This is not charisma. This is certainty, forged not by talent, but by repetition. Others will feel the need to announce themselves. Let them. You are not here to be loud. You are here to be exact. And the exact blade makes the smallest sound when it cuts, because it does not struggle. It simply fulfills its purpose. So should you. Move with so much clarity that noise becomes irrelevant. Move with so much intent that distraction cannot find you. There will be days when your discipline feels invisible, when it seems to build nothing, change nothing, reward nothing. That is the test. The test is not difficulty, it is silence, the ability to persist without confirmation, the ability to keep returning even when no one sees, and especially when no one cares. That is how war is won, not by momentum, but by refusal. And when the breakthrough comes, it will not look like glory. It will look like ease, a movement so fluid it seems effortless. But only you will know the thousands of hours that carved that ease into your bones. Only you will feel the edge in your breath, in your grip, in your step. And the world will call it natural, but you will know it was discipline made invisible. You do not have to feel powerful. You only have to be consistent. Power without control is noise, but consistency, even at low flame, will outlast chaos. It wears down resistance. It cuts through uncertainty. It creates momentum not through speed, but through return. It is not spectacular, but it is undeniable. And in war, only what is undeniable survives. Many will begin, few will endure. Not because they are weak, but because they built their identity on feeling, not on form. They needed energy to move. You only need a reason. And that reason is simple. You are either sharpening or you are rusting. You are either in rhythm or you are vulnerable. There is no stillness in the blade, only sharpening or dulling. Choose your direction. Let your rhythm be your anchor. When the world shakes, you will not. When others panic, you will breathe. Not because you are unafraid, but because your body remembers what your mind does not need to think about. This is the gift of repetition. When thinking stops, action remains. You become your pattern. And when that pattern is strong, you are strong, no matter the storm. You do not rise in the moment. You rise through your mornings. You do not win in the fight. You win through your habits. Every strike is just the echo of 1,000 silent movements before it. Every decision under pressure is just the extension of 100 quiet rehearsals. Do not look to the moment. Look to the movement that led to it. Train so deeply that doubt has no place to land. Doubt only survives in untrained spaces, in skipped steps, in empty repetitions. When you leave no space untrained, doubt withers. It cannot breathe in the presence of certainty, and certainty comes from motion, repeated so often that it becomes instinct. The most disciplined men are not the most rigid, they are the most fluid, because structure has freed them. They do not waste thought on what is already chosen. They do not burn energy deciding what was already decided. Their clarity comes from having fewer decisions and making them all well. That is the freedom most never find. Not the freedom to choose anything, but the freedom of having chosen once and living it daily. When others see routine, you see refinement. When they see boredom, you see sharpening. This is not a trick of the eye. It is a discipline of the mind. Most never train their mind to see repetition as power. They seek novelty, confuse chaos for opportunity, and run from the very structure that would set them free. But you are here to become a weapon. And weapons are not made through chaos. They are made through control. Control begins with the calendar, the breath, the first step of the day. That is where war begins, not with confrontation, but with alignment. If your mind is not at war with your habits, then you have already won half the battle. You are not fighting yourself anymore. You are conserving energy, directing it, sharpening it towards something exact. Do not be afraid of small progress. Be afraid of none. The edge is not lost in a single day. It is lost in excuses, in tomorrow, in just this once, in I'll double tomorrow. These are the phrases of erosion. Speak them often enough, and you'll forget the edge you once held, and you will not notice it is gone until it is too late. You must speak a different language, not with your mouth, with your movement. Let each return say, I have not broken. Let each breath say, I am still sharpening. Let each repetition declare, I did not wait for strength, I built it. That is a language no enemy can misunderstand. And if the world asks why you keep going, say nothing. Show them. When the time comes, your blade will answer for you, and it will not speak in noise. It will speak in outcome, in clarity, in presence, in the clean, cold line of a decision made long ago and kept every day since. This is how warriors walk, without display, without excess, without permission. And when they strike, it is not rage, it is not chance, it is the final step of a path they never left. Let others live by mood. You must live by motion. Let others seek excitement. You must seek execution. There is no rhythm in chaos, only noise. But within discipline, you find rhythm. And rhythm is where power hides. Because rhythm does not need to prove itself. It simply continues. And everything that continues eventually overtakes everything that doesn't. You will not always be the fastest. You will not always be the strongest. But you can always be the most consistent. And consistency breaks mountains, not by explosion, but by erosion. It cuts through resistance with patience. That is why the most feared opponent is not the one with the loudest entrance, but the one who cannot be shaken, the one who shows up again, and again, and again. There is no final mastery, only deeper repetition. No matter how far you go, the edge still needs sharpening. The stance still needs checking. The breath still needs resetting. Victory is not a destination you reach and relax. It is a ground you must defend every day. And the way you defend it is not through motivation, but through return. Quiet, exact, honest return. You are not here to feel successful. You are here to become unavoidable. And becoming unavoidable means you cannot be reasoned out of your path. Your habits must become immune to negotiation. When the mind says, "Not today," the body moves anyway. Not because you are inspired, but because you have chosen. And that choice is now embedded in motion. Let repetition become identity. Let every act of discipline say who you are more clearly than your words ever could. Because identity is not built by declarations. It is built by decisions. And decisions kept long enough become character. A man is not who he says he is. He is what he does when it is no longer convenient. The sharpest warriors carry a stillness others cannot understand. It is not passivity. It is presence. They do not rush because they have rehearsed. They do not flinch because they have returned. Their every step is quiet, not because they lack force, but because their force is held, stored, directed. They are not dull, they are measured. This is what you must become, a presence refined by form, a force that does not need display, a motion so repeated it becomes silent, and so silent it becomes unbreakable. Most men chase boldness. You must chase refinement. Because boldness without refinement collapses under its own weight. But refinement, refined long enough, becomes unshakable. And if the world never applauds you for this, good. You are not here to be seen. You are here to become. The applause of others is not the reward. The edge is. The calm in pressure is. The clarity under chaos is. That is the proof that your practice was real. Not the celebration, but the silence you carry when others are drowning in noise. There will always be another challenge, another opponent, another fire. But you will not need to prepare for each one. You will only need to continue. The one who prepares for everything reacts to everything. But the one who trains a core rhythm, unchanging, deliberate, repeated, meets every enemy from the same foundation. While others panic, he returns. While others adjust, he refines. While others collapse, he breathes. Even nature obeys repetition. The tide does not argue. The moon does not delay. The sun does not wait for applause before rising. And yet, in this repetition, there is power beyond words. That is what you must mimic, a force so steady, so exact, that it becomes eternal. And you do not find this in feeling. You find it in doing. There is no glory in hesitation. There is no power in excuse. You either build your pattern or you don't. And if you don't, nothing else will hold. Motivation fades, inspiration fades. But the calendar does not lie. The rep does not lie. The breath taken with control at dawn is truth. And truth, when repeated, becomes authority. You must stop chasing motivation like a child chasing sunlight through trees. You are not here to chase anything. You are here to stand, to sharpen, to become something others do not even see until it is too late. That is the reward of discipline. Invisibility until execution. No build-up, no drama, just presence, and then consequence. Let them call you obsessive. Let them say you are too rigid, too strict, too silent. They will only say this until you move. And then they will ask how you became so precise, so cold, so effective. They will not understand that your coldness was forged in repetition, that your silence was trained, that your effectiveness is not personality, it is pattern. So move without needing to feel like it. Execute without being watched. Return without reward. And if you do this long enough, you will wake one day to find you are no longer asking for strength. You are carrying it. No longer seeking clarity. you are living it. And when the world presses, you will not react. You will remain, not because of force, but because of repetition held in silence. This is how blades are made, not in fire alone, but in cooling, in grinding, in polishing, again and again, until there are no flaws left to hide, until only edge remains. You cannot build clarity in chaos. You carry clarity into chaos. And if you do not already have it, the noise will blind you. The fear will shape you. The pressure will command you. But the one who has practiced stillness under no pressure will not be moved under full pressure, because he has already seen it, felt it, conquered it in the quiet, long before the noise arrived. The most dangerous man in the room is not the one who speaks with certainty. It is the one who listens with discipline, the one who does not answer quickly, the one who does not flinch when provoked, because he is not unfeeling, he is unmoved. There is a difference. One is numb, the other is honed. You must understand, your routine is not just habit, it is armor. It is what protects your inner command from erosion. The world will offer you 1,000 exits from your path, each dressed in comfort. But you cannot afford to choose ease. Ease dulls. And the dull blade must strike harder, not cleaner. The sharp blade is lighter, because it has already done the work. Let your pattern do the speaking. When others hesitate, you move. When others wait for clarity, yours is already drawn. Not because you guessed, but because you rehearsed. And this rehearsal was never for applause. It was for war. Quiet, daily, honest war with yourself. Against distraction. Against delay. Against every invisible force that wishes to soften your edge. There is no honor in potential, only in preparation. Do not fall in love with your capability. Fall in love with your control. You may be capable of much, but without return, it rots. Even the finest blade rusts in still air. You must put it to the stone. You must test its alignment. You must examine it daily and remove what no longer serves it. That is how a weapon remains lethal, not through pride, but through maintenance. And so it is with the self. You cannot expect your power to remain if you do not return to it. Every day, it must be shaped, not with glory, with grind, not with applause, with presence. Every repetition is a returning home. Every act of discipline, a refusal to drift. This is not punishment. This is preservation. Others will chase shortcuts. They will want the reward without the rhythm. Let them. You are not here for comfort, you are here for command. And command requires continuity. The same morning, the same breath, the same exact stance, until your pattern becomes posture, and your posture becomes power. There is a simplicity in this path that most overlook. They mistake effort for noise. They think work must be visible to be valuable. But the most valuable work leaves no trace. It only leaves results. When the body moves without tension. When the strike lands without effort. When the mind remains still while others break. That is when the hours you gave to silence show their worth. Train yourself to see each repetition not as an act of labor, but as a moment of alignment. Each small motion is a returning to your edge. Each breath is a check on your stance. Each pause is a sharpening of your presence. Do not speed through them. Live in them. That is where strength is planted. That is where certainty is born. You are not what you achieve. You are what you repeat. Do not look to outcomes to measure your path. Look to how well you have honored the process. The world will try to measure you by results. Let it. You measure yourself by return, by the fidelity of your form, by how well you stayed the course when it made no sound. There is a great peace in knowing you cannot be moved, not because you are stubborn, but because you are structured. The winds may howl, the fire may rise, the failures may speak, but you return. You pick up the same tools, you take the same breath, you repeat the same act of preparation. And in doing so, you walk through chaos untouched. Repetition is not a trap. It is a compass. The man who knows his path does not look for excitement. He looks for accuracy. And accuracy is only born from familiarity. You cannot control what you do not understand. And you cannot understand what you have not done 100 times, 1,000 times, until the motion becomes memory, until the memory becomes instinct. Instinct is not magic. It is the residue of discipline. It is the consequence of obedience to repetition. You must not seek to be impressive. You must seek to be precise. Let others shout. You breathe. Let others rush. You return. Let others perform. You prepare. The reward for this is not recognition. It is readiness. Your sharpness is not something you show. It is something you become. So that when the world demands action, you do not scramble. You step. You move like a man who has already moved 1,000 times. Like a blade already drawn long before it was seen. There is no final test. Only a question repeated every day. Will you return? Will you sharpen? Will you do what must be done, not once, but always? The blade answers with its edge. You answer with your life. There are two kinds of warriors, those who perform and those who endure. The performer waits for the right conditions, for the perfect timing, for eyes upon him. But the one who endures has no such need. He moves without being seen. He sharpens without being asked. His resolve is not an act. It is a law he obeys, one written not in words, but in repetition. If you wait for willpower, you have already lost. Willpower fades, but rhythm endures. Rhythm does not depend on mood. Rhythm does not ask for permission. It simply continues. And those who continue quietly and precisely surpass those who began with noise. There is no battle more essential than the one you fight daily before the world wakes. That is where your posture is set, where your breath is trained, where the softness of modern comfort is burned off by 1,000 honest returns. You do not build greatness by chasing opportunity. You build it by refusing to break, even when no one would blame you if you did. The strike that lands with finality is not born in the moment. It is born in the dull hours, when there is no threat, no fire, no reason, except the choice to refine. And that is the mark of a true warrior, not that he fights well when forced, but that he prepares when unprovoked. You do not need to feel like showing up. You need to be the kind of person who shows up anyway. That is identity, not motivation. Identity says, this is what I do. I do not wait for the world to approve. You do not ask the weather if it is a good day to sharpen. You sharpen because that is who you are. Let others burn themselves out on ambition. Let them seek lightning. You are here for the grindstone. You are here for the motion that never tires, the act that never stops. Because it is not forced, it is forged. And when motion becomes nature, it no longer needs to be summoned. It is simply there, present, reliable, lethal. You will not always be inspired, but you can always be disciplined. Discipline is not a feeling, it is a system. It is the architecture of your daily choices. And when the storm arrives, the structure holds, not because it is beautiful, but because it was built properly. Because you returned to it daily and reinforced it. even when nothing around you demanded it. War comes suddenly, but your readiness must not. Readiness is slow. Readiness is built. Readiness is practiced in obscurity. And when it is tested, it does not tremble, because it has already passed every test that mattered. The tests no one watched, the ones you gave yourself, the ones you did not skip. You cannot fake a foundation. Under pressure, all falsehoods collapse. Only the man who built his stance brick by brick, quietly and without shortcuts, remains. He does not need luck. He does not need ideal conditions. He does not even need to be at his best. He only needs to return. Because returning is what makes him whole. Sharpening is not about the blade. It is about the hand that holds it, the breath that calms it, the clarity that directs it. That is what you are shaping in your routine. Not just skill, but spirit. Not just habit, but honor. Because the one who honors his own pattern cannot be corrupted by the chaos of the day. Most men wait for crisis to build discipline. You must build discipline so that crisis never controls you. That is the difference between a man who reacts and a man who commands. The reactor lives by emotion. The commander lives by structure. One is temporary. The other is timeless. If you are easily shaken, it is because your repetitions have not been honest. You have skipped steps. You have allowed softness. You have permitted doubt to sit beside you. You must remove it. Not through violence, through return. You must make your patterns so tight that no distraction can squeeze in. And if you are tired, remember this. The blade does not care how you feel. The enemy will not wait for your recovery. The war will not slow for your comfort. You must rise. You must move. You must honor the rhythm even when your body resists. That is how the blade is kept sharp. Not by ease, but by effort without audience. Each step you take in silence trains you for the noise. Each repetition without feedback prepares you for the moment when everything is on the line and there is no one to help you but your own form. And that form, if built correctly, will not betray you. It will move. It will hold. It will strike. Let that be your faith, not in chance, but in your return. Not in results, but in your refinement. Not in passion, but in presence. Because presence is the weapon that never dulls. It is the edge behind the edge. And only those who repeat without reward ever learn to carry it. This is the final truth of routine. It will not make you loud. It will not make you famous. It will not even make you happy. But it will make you ready. Ready for the moment when everything around you breaks. And you don't. You must stop waiting for the world to shape you. You must shape yourself. That is the first act of war, the refusal to remain unformed, the rejection of passivity, the choice to live as a blade, not in appearance, but in essence. A blade that does not shine for the sake of others, but that simply cuts because it was made to. And the making is not glamorous. It is not filled with praise. It is not comfortable, but it is pure. It is honest. It is yours. You will come to love it not because it feels good, but because it feels real. The repetition, the quiet, the discipline, the weight of your own command, carried without complaint. Most men fear that path. They fear the silence. They fear the stillness. They fear themselves. So they run toward noise, toward busyness, toward praise. But none of that holds. None of that lasts. The only thing that lasts is what you build beneath it all. The pattern no one sees. The breath no one counts. The quiet that cannot be shaken. Do not underestimate that quiet. In it lives your sovereignty. In it, you become immune to trend, to doubt, to distraction. In it, You return again and again to something deeper than effort. You return to purpose, not the loud kind, but the kind forged by friction, repetition, and restraint. Even when the world misunderstands you, you remain. Even when progress is slow, you return. Even when others stop, you continue. This is how strength is made, not in explosions, but in steps. In the day you didn't skip, the motion you didn't rush, the breath you didn't waste. And in that constancy, you become something rare, a presence that does not need to be explained, a force that does not need to be shown, a blade that cuts not because it tries, but because it has been sharpened so precisely, so repeatedly, that anything it touches yields. This is why I do not speak of hype, of fire, of glory. Those things are unstable. What I speak of is steel, cold, composed, repetitive, sharp. Steel does not shout, it does not hope, it does not need affirmation. It only requires one thing: return. You return to your breath, your stance, your form, not because it is easy, but because it is right. Because you made a vow not to impress, not to be seen, but to never again be unprepared. That is the path. Not perfection, not fame, readiness. And readiness is never earned in the light. It is earned in the dull, invisible hours, when you rise before the world, when you move without energy, when you practice without a visible result, when you strike again and again into the void, until one day the void moves. Let others chase speed, you chase silence. Let others crave power, you crave alignment. Let others display strength, you train restraint. Because when the time comes, and it will, your presence will speak before you do. Your discipline will move before your thought does. Your years of return will rise like a tide, and nothing will stand against it. There is no ending to this path, no final arrival, only deeper refinement. And that is what makes it beautiful. You will never be finished, and so you will never grow soft. You will never arrive, and so you will never stop returning. What others call endless, you will call sacred. Because this is sacred, the man who does not need to be told, the man who sharpens himself without threat, the man whose silence is more instructive than 1,000 voices, the man who is not moved by praise or insult, only by purpose. And if you become that man, you will no longer need to ask what to do. You will know, because your days will be shaped by rhythm. Your mind will be sharpened by choice. Your will, no longer fragile, but forged. That is power, not dominance, not control over others. Power over self. And that is the only victory that matters. All other victories are echoes of it. So, return. Every day, without exception, without excuse, without performance. Return when tired. Return when restless. Return when no one notices. Return when you don't believe it's working. Return because it is the only way the blade stays sharp. And when the hour arrives, the pressure, the war, the test, you will not need to prepare. You will not need to think. You will only need to breathe. And move, and cut, because you will already be ready.